I think as you alluded to, the key is being a ruthless editor and like making sure that I didn't just type into the LLM, write me a book, and then da 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 da,
Right,
be
exactly.
like, there's the book.
Right.
It was a chapter by chapter, paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence intensive process, where I tried to, infuse my voice, my perspective into really every aspect of this book. So
Welcome to Ira's Everything Bagel, where I talk with intriguing people about everything, their passions, pursuits, and points of view. Well, are you comfortable with AI? Are you comfortable with the answers you get from AI? Are they the correct or objective answers? Well, we'll find out next with my guest, Shane H. Tepper. He is a creative director, content strategist, and early leader in the emerging field of generative engine optimization. Say that three times real fast. He helps brands improve visibility, accuracy, and narrative control across AI native platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. And he's also author of Dwelling in a Place of Yes, the surprising psychology behind fear, opportunity, and smarter choices. It's a book that examines decision making in uncertain times and reflects on his evolving work in content and consulting. The book is available on Amazon and all the usual places. And for everything about Shane, go to retina.media, and follow him on LinkedIn. And Shane, welcome to the show.
it's a pleasure to be here, Ira. I was told to expect a wide-ranging conversation, and I look forward to just that.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to it as well. I have to find out, I guess, how you found yourself in the middle of this brave new world of AI and GEO as opposed to the old SEO. So, and by the way, for our audience of viewers and listeners, we'll do a little definition of some of these terms too, so that people don't feel like that we're talking Martian.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's start with that, in fact.
Sure.
So most people are familiar with SEO, search engine optimization. It's basically optimizing for search engines that match strings of text. So we know what a typical search query is, like best CRM of 2025. CRMs are, client relationships management software. But but yes, so SEO is optimizing for search engines like Google that match strings of text. GEO, generative engine optimization, is about optimizing for AI systems like Perplexity, ChatGPT, that understand concepts and intent. And over the past year or so, couple of years, we've seen a massive shift in high intent searchers. That's people who are looking for specific things, trying to buy specific things, moving from traditional search like Google to these LLM platforms, ChatGPT,
I'm
Perplexity.
one of those people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Because they can be much more specific with their queries and they can get much more relevant results surfaced directly to them. So, to get a bit deeper into it, with SEO, users type in fragments, right? Like the example I gave earlier, like the best CRM 2025. This is like a typical B2B search in an LLM, a large language model. Or what is product-led growth? And it's keyword first. It's built for uh, algorithms that match index content. And GEO sort of flips that. It's built for how people actually think and speak, human language, when interacting with AI. So instead of typing, disjointed keywords, users will talk to LLMs in full, more nuanced questions like, what's the best CRM for a mid-sized B2B team that integrates well with HubSpot? A lot
Wow,
more
that
context.
is even beyond technical for me. So let me ask you a more basic question. And I think people always assume everybody knows what artificial intelligence is. Can you give us just a short definition of artificial intelligence in a non-technical way, if possible?
Sure. Absolutely. Artificial intelligence models are self-learning. They're self-advancing. So they consider the context of a bunch of different things. They're trained on data, and they're trained to recognize patterns within that data. And when a query is asked of an AI model, and there are many different applications of AI models, but specifically for what are referred to as large language models, which is Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. People are familiar with these when you ask a text-based question and you get a response. What they're doing is they're looking at their training data, which is, vast volumes of information, everything from, history, tech-related stuff, literature, think of like the sum total of the knowledge that's on the internet, and that is used to train these models. So these models are capable of making connections between concepts, ideas, philosophies, um, uh, you know, what X applies in what Y situation, right? So when a user types in a query, what the model does is it kind of breaks it down into the semantic intent, what it believes to be the semantic intent of that question that a user is asking. And then it looks at this vast data set and tries to, connect different things to provide the most relevant results to a user. Is that a good explanation? Is
It
that a
is, it is. And I find that in my use of it, I'm a layman. In my use of it, I will ask it, I find that you have to ask it a very specific question and narrow it down, and you get the best results. So I was in Los Angeles recently, and we were driving down La Cienega Boulevard in an Uber, and there was this interesting building that had a clock with two kids hanging from the clock with no name of the building. And in the back of the Uber, I typed into ChatGPT on my phone. I said, what is the building called that's on the southeast corner of Melrose and La Cienega in Los Angeles that has a clock with two kids hanging from it? And within less than a second, it gave me the whole history of the building and the architect, etc. It was amazing.
It's incredible. And that level of specificity is exactly, what you need to provide to a model like this in order to get that exact response that you wanted. You know, the more specificity, the more context you can provide, the more relevant the response is going to be for whatever it is that you asked
I
about.
want to explore something that you've raised in the past, and that has to do with the difference. And I raised it in my opening based on your expertise, which was why do you sometimes get different answers from different models? But before that, I want to go back to my original question because I never forget. And that is, well, I do forget, but not when I'm doing an interview. And that is, how did you get involved in the middle of all this? What was your background that brought you to this?
That's a fantastic question. So I have had a pretty circuitous career path, I'd say. I used to work in the film industry, video production. Then I worked in advertising as a copywriter, an ad copywriter, and then finally went in-house at a variety of different tech companies over the years, primarily business to business B2B companies, as a copywriter. Uh, and I came across the very first release of ChatGPT's model this must have been early 2023. And I was like, okay, let's see what this thing can do. And I took a creative brief, like one that a product marketing team would provide to a creative team to execute on whatever it is the project is, if it's a landing page or a case study or whatever. And within seconds, it generated pretty decent copy, very comparable to what, as a 10-year, a copywriter with 10 years of experience could produce. And I was like, crap, I need to kind of figure out, I don't think this is a viable career path for me anymore. Um, and I had kind of like a freak out internally. I think a lot of creatives can relate to this, designers, copywriters, right? You can now use AI tools to create very engaging copy if you know how to prompt it well enough and iterate on the output. Same thing with graphic design. I could create a pretty snappy looking logo on ChatGPT. ChatGPT has a powerful image generation image that it rolled out a few months ago, and I've used it quite a bit in my work rather than hire a designer. So yeah, it was really a moment of existential crisis for me. And I realized that these tools were going to have, a drastic impact on pretty much every industry, but particularly on creatives and marketing and other business applications. So I decided then that I would join the machines, I guess you could say, and learn about this technology,
Right.
learn how to implement it well. You hear a lot of businesses are like AI is the future. We got to do AI, something vague like that. And they're absolutely right. You do need to incorporate AI tools into how you do business without question. Um, but it needs to be done in a strategic way. It needs to be implemented in a way that makes sense for your particular case. It's not just about getting AI. It's
Right.
about smartly incorporating it.
Right, exactly. And some companies I know utilize AI in their phone systems when you call. I mean, it's very seamless now. And so that's a great. So you decided to you couldn't beat them, so join them and join the machines. And so now you're consulting, and so people will come to you, companies will come to you and ask, or clients will come to you and ask, how can we do this? What would you suggest is the best strategic approach to incorporating AI in our either our operations or even our strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've been focusing on recently, for the past several months is GEO, generative engine optimization. Just like brands wanted to come up when people typed relevant queries into Google, they now want to show up when people type relevant queries into ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, etc. These models all behave differently. They have different training data. They have different, trust rules and value systems, I guess you could say, that are encoded into them. Um, but it is the place where more and more people are going to for brand discovery and comparison. So I've had a number of clients approach me in the past 6 months, and they're like, "Hey, how can we show up on ChatGPT? We want to be able, when someone asks for, a product that or service that solves a problem that we solve, that solves the problems that we solve specifically, we want to be surfaced there at the top." And there are a number of ways. This is a constantly evolving, a constantly developing industry. That's part of why I got into it, and what makes me so excited about it is because we're constantly learning new things about how these models work. The engineers themselves, often have difficulty explaining how and why, different models surface different sources. Because that's the nature of machine learning. It's the nature of artificial intelligence. It trains itself. It learns. It figures things out on its own. It's not like a hard-coded sort of a situation. Quite the
Much
opposite.
more flexible. And that goes to the point I raised in my opening, which was if you ask a question in ChatGPT, you get an answer. If you do it in Gemini, you may get a different answer. So it's not necessarily that the second answer is wrong. It's just the way that machine learned how to answer.
That's absolutely right. And for LLMs broadly, it's about trust, credibility, authenticity of the responses. And they have different ways of determining that. They have different sources that they'll cite that they have determined to be credible sources. Whether it's Wikipedia or Reddit or something that was posted on LinkedIn. They give different weights to the credibility of these different citation sources. And something else that we've learned only recently is that there is a large amount of turnover month to month on what these different systems are considering to be credible sources. Up over 50% in the case of ChatGPT, which is remarkable. So it's constantly, unlike, and this is a key difference between SEO and GEO. SEO, you create content that is optimized for your selected keyword set. There's some back-end stuff, stuff that you do technically with metadata to increase the likelihood of Google's crawlers being able to read and index your information. With GEO, it's quite a bit different. It is, there aren't any hard set rules. As I mentioned, what the sources that these models consider to be credible, reliable, are changing constantly. And it's really interesting, for me, it's a really interesting challenge to sort of see what has kind of become more baked in terms of how we should approach discoverability strategically, and then what are the more fluid elements that we constantly need to be paying attention to and optimizing for.
Do you spend a certain dedicated amount of time each day just on staying on top of things with
Yeah.
this new world?
Yes.
You'd have to, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. There are certain personalities, influencers, I guess you could call them, on LinkedIn that are constantly publishing new information, case studies, research on how these models work. Um, and yeah, I definitely try and spend at least an hour a day, trying to stay on top of these trends, and really get as deep of an understanding as I can on what we're seeing in terms of like the behavior of these models and what they're doing to surface the information that they do to a user.
Do you find too that you have a hard time explaining to potential clients what the importance of GEO is?
Candidly, Ira, I really don't, because most of the time they know, they're familiar with, everyone knows about ChatGPT, of course, that's a big one.
Right.
And I think they have a basic fundamental understanding that people are using these models to find brands like such as themselves, and they want to show up there. They have that baseline understanding, but they don't know how to do it. They don't understand these models, how they work, and that's where they need help. They're like, we want to show up here, help me do that. Um, and certainly over the past several months, there's been an increasing awareness among business leaders that this is an important thing that they should probably be paying attention to.
Well, I think too, and I just discovered this myself because generally I've used ChatGPT. I'll just use myself as an example, and hopefully our audience will understand why I'm doing it this way. But I've used ChatGPT for research, for answering questions, for rewriting certain things, and yeah, it's very good in terms of the creative aspect of it. But I discovered the other day when I was trying to find an item, and I said, "Is this item available anywhere else other than Costco?" And they gave me a list of three or four stores. And then I started thinking, oh, wait a minute now, this could become the new search function for products and services, which means in a capitalistic society, this could fuel an explosion of additional business just on that level, let alone operational stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, e-commerce is a huge industry that is taking advantage of these models. I expect to see we're already starting to see e-commerce integrations into some of these models.
Mhm.
Uh, but absolutely, like you said, we're a capitalist society. If there is revenue to be generated using LLMs, you can be damn sure that people who want to generate that revenue are going to be taking a hard look at these models and figuring out how to do that. And likewise, on the other end, the companies that create these models are likely going to notice those. The companies that make these models are likely going to take advantage of that as well. There is a tension, though, I believe, between these models presenting themselves as sources of credible, reliable, trustworthy information, and the more salesy aspect to it, the marketing aspect to it.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how these companies sort of treat that, as the technology continues to be adopted and as it continues to evolve.
I want to talk about your book in a minute, but I wanted to find out what happens when AI becomes the main way that we access information. Does that block off other research and other ways to find things out, or because we get so used to an easy way to get answers?
I think we will always value original research, controlled scientific methodology applied to learn original things, genuinely new things. Um, As far as AI goes, I think there is a big problem that we're seeing. AI, the quality of the data sets that are used to train these models aren't always aren't always the best. Despite the engineers' best efforts, and the models themselves, as I mentioned, are sort of thinking independently, so they are capable of providing output that is not accurate, bad information that then gets reshared and then gets re-ingested, and it kind of creates this cycle of bad ideas, bad information, getting out into the internet, into the information ecosystem. And I don't think we're prepared for the consequences of that at all.
And can those models be hacked?
Um, you mean like a bat, someone with bad intentions,
Right,
just
exactly. Could they hack, say,
hacking?
Chat GPT and put in some malicious information that's totally wrong about somebody? And
Absolutely. I think there are ways that a savvy bad actor could influence the algorithms, especially ones that are doing live retrieval from the internet. If you are somehow able to position bad information in a way that the model likes to ingest, right? I could easily envision a scenario
yeah.
where that presents problems.
Let's talk about your book. It's called Dwelling in a Place of Yes, the surprising psychology behind fear, opportunity, and smarter choices. Why did you decide to write the book?
Well, it started as sort of an experiment, born out of curiosity and honestly a bit of skepticism. Um, I had been laid off from my job, uh, and I decided to see if I could write a book using AI as an aid, while still trying to maintain my authentic human voice. Um, there was a conversation I was having with a friend about, you know, uh, there was a conversation I was having with a friend about kind of like new, like contemporary psychology speak, like setting an intention, stuff like that. And I wanted to come up with a buzzy sounding psychology concept. So I was like, dwelling in a place of yes. I'm trying to dwell in a place of yes at this particular juncture in my life.
Yes, it's a
And then
positive affirmation, isn't it?
it is a positive affirmation, and that's the thing, right? It sounds kind of like woo-woo and new agey and whatnot, but there's obviously genuine value there when you approach situations with an open mindset. You tend to get better outcomes. There's nothing that revolutionary about that idea. But what I wanted to do was see if I could develop a system around that idea, frameworks that actually help people evaluate individual situations where they could say yes or no, opportunities that they could either accept or decline, and make the best decision that they possibly can. So that kind of became the objective rather than sort of this, you know, like I said, skeptical, tongue-in-cheek, sort of almost cynical sort of approach. It really evolved into a project where I was genuinely trying to provide,
Mhm.
something valuable for people. So that's the story. That's the origin story behind dwelling in a place of yes. And I think we landed in a pretty good place. I think the book it's heavily backed by credible psychological studies, business case studies, and by the way, it approaches this strategic decision-making process through the lens of mostly marketing, business applications, career-oriented decision-making. But I think we landed in a place in a place of yes. I think we ended up with a product that, and I say we because I have this hesitation to take full credit for this for the book because I wrote it with the aid of AI, as I mentioned earlier. I supplied, my thinking. I supplied anecdotes from my life and career. I also fed it samples of my own natural writing style so that it could approximate how I actually, write and speak, and so it would sound like me. But I think we ended up with something that provides genuine value for people. I've had people, come to me after reading the book and say, Shane, this was super helpful for me. It helped me, work through some situations that I was uncertain about. I wasn't sure how to proceed. And it really helped me make confident decisions about those situations. So that's obviously amazing for me to hear. I love that my something that I produced with the aid of AI is genuinely helping people.
So your co-author was AI.
Yes, specifically Claude, the model Claude,
So I think your book should say by Shane H. Tepper
with Claude.
with Claude. Yeah.
Absolutely, it should say that. You're right. And in fact, I don't know if you had the opportunity to dig into the book at all, but I wrote an original introduction to the book, and then I went back and wrote an additional introduction. So the book actually has two introductions. One that is kind of like a more formal or normal entryway into the concepts of the book, and one that really kind of uh, is transparent about how I produce this, the thinking behind it, the origin behind, my desire to, do this experiment with AI, being perfectly open and candid about how I used AI to write it. Some people have, frankly expressed, displeasure or maybe not displeasure, but
Disapproval, perhaps.
disapproval. That's exactly right. Disapproval of how, that I use this tech to create a book. Um, but I didn't want to, I wanted to make it perfectly clear exactly how this thing was produced, and kind of like, preempt that skepticism and that disapproval. I don't blame people, of course, if they don't want to read something that was written with the aid of AI, if they're looking for, a pure human creation, if they consider that to be more authentic, that's absolutely valid. I acknowledge that. But I just really wanted to be upfront and truthful with people about how I created this book.
And of course, you edited what came out of
Of course.
anyway, because that's in addition, you personalized it even more by the editing. So it reflected what you were thinking, it reflected your style of writing, and you edited well. So I don't see a problem with it. I think you actually may be the pioneer in this, and I think we're going to see more of these collaborations down the road. Very short.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the as you alluded to, the key is being a ruthless editor and like making sure that I didn't just type into, the LLM, write me a book and then da 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 da,
Right,
be
exactly.
like, there's the book.
Right.
It was a chapter by chapter, paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence intensive process, where I tried to, infuse my voice, my perspective, into really every aspect of this book. So, it's up to the individual reader, as to whether or not I accomplish that, and it's obviously up to the individual reader, whether or not, they find this book to be a valuable resource.
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guest has been Shane H. Tepper. He's a creative director, content strategist, and early leader in the emerging field of GEO. He's also author, as we mentioned, and we've been talking about Dwelling in a Place of Yes, the surprising psychology behind fear, opportunity, and smarter choices. And it's available on Amazon and all the usual places. For everything about Shane, go to retina.media. That's retina.media. And follow him on LinkedIn. And Shane, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Ira. It was a pleasure.
Same here. And join us every Thursday for a new schmear on Ira's Everything Bagel.